Oof.
I'm pushing through it.
Shit.
You okay?
This old groin is so
You pulled his nungu.
Oh.
That's not true.
Is that why you can't keep a girlfriend?
Oh, damn.
Oh.
Damn.
Hibachi style. Taking me to Benihana.
Come on.
Welcome to Who Hit Your Podcast. I'm Vidush.
I'm Roy.
What up? So, big question of the week that's been going around. And it's aimed at you, Roy. Do you believe social media is killing free speech?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Dang. Okay. Tell me. I didn't know you were going to say that. Yeah. Go ahead. Tell me.
Free speech.
Yeah.
What is it called?
Amendment.
Amendment. It's like the best amendment, right?
Right. The First Amendment.
The first one.
I like
the greatest amendment. There's no other.
But like,
amendment
it's so powerful. Like, it really is.
I mean, the Second Amendment is the best amendment because I can earn free speech with it.
Well,
That's what I needed to earn free speech was that. But I get the point.
so I think that
just-
if you are a free speech absolutist, then free speech is free speech.
Yeah.
I think that when the amendment was originally written, obviously there's no social media, and like the way that people even communicate in general is just different.
Yeah.
Social media is weird. It's changed our civilization. It's changed the way that we communicate. It's changed a lot of things. And I would say that it's not necessarily for the greater good. I think it's bad.
Okay.
In general, in like our
But
communication.
it's definitely changed. You're right. It's definitely changed everything.
So I think that like, here's this thing that's changed the way we do everything. We don't really understand what we've really created and how it's actually detrimental to us and people.
Definitely true. We're still learning the rules.
So I think that
Last election, it changed it.
so we've hit new boundaries on what is really the ability for one person to just speak to a limited amount of people and be heard
Yes.
is an amazing power that people haven't had until the last 10, 15 years.
True.
Right? So it's not just me saying one thing. It's I can sway a whole country's way of thinking. Anybody can.
True.
I think that if you're an absolute, then obviously you say that like fascists, Nazis, racists, like what they're saying is bad. I think that you have to see, like, people are going to say these stupid things. I think you have to allow them to say these things. Like, it's their right to say this. Is it ignorant? Is it wrong? Is it hateful? It's all those things. And I think it's up to us as a people to be able to say, like, no, that's wrong. That's not right. And to not allow this person to grow using social media to like become something bigger than they should be. But I think that if you're in a situation where you ban the president or anybody, not even just the president, if you say that you can't, I'm a private company and you can't use this platform anymore to say something, then you've crossed the line now. Where like if you can do that to the president of the United States, you can do that to anybody, and you can do that to anybody. Then now it's like, is this how we keep progressives down? Is this how we keep X group of people down? Is this how we keep control of like how people think and what they think? And it just ultimately, I think it just takes away your right to have free speech.
Can I pose a question?
Sure.
Let's say that we have social media back in World War II. Would you have supported them doing that to Hitler?
Social media in World War II was like going to the movies and they'd be like, today in North Korea or whatever. Like,
right. So would you support them? Like, let's say Hitler had a Twitter. Would you support them banning Hitler from Twitter?
Hitler having a social media, I mean, no.
Yeah.
No. If you're an absolutist,
right,
you have the right to say what you say.
So you are an absolutist
yes.
with the First Amendment? Okay.
And so here's the thing, the argument that I will pose as well, which I feel like is where you guys are getting, is that, like, Hitler did all the things that he did without Twitter because he used his free speech rights, and this wasn't even in America, right? Like, he used his free speech rights in Germany and Europe to have rallies that he put on, that he did himself. Like, this was something, he spread that message without the help of social media, which Donald Trump and anyone can do.
Right.
So you went on, you agree to the terms of a company's platform, and you violate those terms. I don't think that is the same as free speech. I totally get where that line is blurred, but there is nothing telling Donald Trump that he will face repercussion if he says that out loud. You know what I mean? If he says that on his own platform, if he says it in any way other than utilizing these companies' platforms. That's where I think we get into the scarier situation where whatever you say to anyone can be used against you in legal ramification.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Yeah, I mean, you have
I'm so it's going to be easy for me to talk. I'm the other way. And if that question was posed to me, my answer is a resounding fuck no. But I want you to finish what you're saying, because like at least be able to respond to this, because I am on the opposite side, but I'm also different even from what she's saying, like my idea. So,
like as I said in the beginning of this, like we're in new territory, we're in new ground. We don't really understand this. I think that scenario there is like, I believe that is a valid argument and a valid point, and I think that is something that can be used to justify a group's a point and side, and I think that can be weaponized against opposing groups.
And then this is just devil's advocate, just actually leaning to what you said is that CNN thing that we just heard. Actually, this one ban happened, and now they're talking about deplatforming anyone with... Did you hear what they said on there? Severely radical ideas. There is no severely radical ideas on YouTube already because it's also a private company and they curate their information up to a standard. Up to, like, you can't be saying this level of things or we'll pull your video.
I was just going to say, make sure and talk about what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah, so CNN, they had a ex-Facebook executive on there literally saying that there are YouTube channels, which is true, that have severely radical ideas that have more viewership than daytime CNN. And the answer to that is that's CNN's fucking fault.
Because they don't listen to the people.
You guys are already telling us fake information, or let's say not fake information, slanted information. Right? You're only going to tell it one way.
And I'll go even further. I think that is the cry of a dying breed of media.
I think you're right.
I think that television in general, like who has cable and watches TV? Like what's the percentage of people? Do they do that and just watch apps and are just like on whatever?
Yeah. And honestly, I would have not respected your argument as much if that hadn't happened so soon right after they did that. And I was like, oh my goodness, they can't even control themselves. The second they had a chance to control the power.
I think
so that it does give some weight. I do understand that.
I think that the growth...
Right, and doesn't that hurt that argument? Because you have a good point. And then just that move hurts exactly. You're like, why would you... You've made it much harder for the right thing to happen.
Yeah, I agree. So, like, I have to go back to, like, there was a debate in our neighborhood about whether or not someone could have a gay pride flag outside of their house.
Yes, they should be able to.
Exactly. Correct. Right. And especially because
this is not an argument.
Very clear.
Wave that flag. Do it. Wave your flag. Right. And I'm very pro for that. Like that's definitely my own social leaning. But then Roy and I had this conversation where if someone were to have a Trump flag out there, people would have feelings about it but that's their
But
right.
they're allowed to
So
have it
if
up.
I
Gotta
want
put it
my
up.
gay pride flag, he should be able to, that person should be able to have their Trump flag. So I agree. Like, I took a media law class. First Amendment was a big part of
Right.
that. And First Amendment is really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so I totally get the brevity of the new situation we find ourselves in, because this is unprecedented. And it is a slippery slope. And
It's
I
true.
definitely agree
I
that
didn't
they
know
need to
it
be
was so
checked.
slippery.
And
Honestly, I didn't know it was that
Can I
slippery.
have another point of view of how I see these companies to better, so you can better understand my point of this? I believe while these are private companies, I think that these private companies, tech companies in general, have gotten very big and they control a lot, and to the point where, like, they're really in control of a lot of people's thoughts and the people. They control the people to a certain degree, and it's like all forms of media, but like these big Facebook in particular. Facebook. We'll use Facebook. I believe Facebook has become the like town crier.
Yeah.
I believe it's like it's become a public utility to some fashion. Like,
So you're saying social media is a human right?
yes.
Okay.
I believe it's a human right because the way that it's changed the way we communicate, it is the primary form of communication for the majority of people across the world. And I believe that it has now become an extension of me and my speech.
Yeah.
So I think that while, okay, yes, this is a private company, but you've created something that is like, that's not just you now.
Yeah.
Like, this is me. This is me and my voice in some fashion. This is my brand. And I think that, okay, now we got to this really weird situation where these companies, then if they are this like public utility, then there needs to be some kind of regulation. There needs to be some kind of like, everybody needs to understand what very clear of like how this operates then and what its purpose is. And I think that that's not there yet. Right now it's just like these companies decide what they are because that's a private company and we can't say that because they have their right to do what they want to do also. This is where we're in that weird, I believe that like we're in this weird cross or like moment where I think that people can use social media and weaponize it to control the people and kind of just sway sides and sway, like do what they can make people think and act however they want. And I think that them being able to take people off of platforms is very dangerous, and then starts crossing a lot of lines that will be weaponized against opposition on either side or the same side. And I think that is bad for the people and a society.
Okay. So, fair argument. So there's some things I can agree with. Like, lots of things I can agree with. Big thing, it's a gray area now, right? It's new. So for sure we don't understand the rules yet. For sure, if you believe it's a human right, at the same time I know you wouldn't be able to say, I can take this man's company away from him that he built it. Just because it got so big, it's still his company.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, so you can't in the same sense. It becomes hard to say it's a human right now. That's actually his. He made it. He actually made it, and he not only has, I believe, a responsibility to curate his information rather than a right. He has a responsibility because that's what keeps free speech useful, because free speech does not defend death threats. It does not defend when the result is violence and death. That's the stuff it doesn't defend.
Go ahead.
And because of that, when they don't curtail their information and that's the result, this is the effect. It's not that they didn't give him every chance to follow the rules. He kept breaking them anyways. It's when that something finally happened, they were forced to do something about it. Now, it's still tough to say you could give like, you know, you're gonna give him a lifetime ban or something. Like, this is like, I see the slippery slope because it just happened right after. I'm like, oh my goodness, like that's wrong. Because I can say that that's wrong also. Like, oh, I can see the slippery slope, but there's no way I can say that social media is ruining free speech because there was no free speech before it. There was none. And really we mean big tech, right? Social media and big tech, because Google plays its part in this, Apple plays its part, Netflix plays its part in this, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, any of those options before this, our free speech was limited to the thoughts of the media that you'd see in the paper or you'd see on TV. And with these thoughts, even because of social media, we can challenge social media. Like, this wouldn't happen without it. So we need social media. Social media is saving free speech. It is making us ask these questions. It's too new for it to be correct. So these rules are getting broken. We're figuring out what's going on. But there's no way that it's actually ruining free speech when we would have not found out. Like, people know of government betrayals now. You see police officer executions on tape now,
which I think is like,
and that's social media. That's free. We didn't even know the truth.
Yeah.
So they weren't giving us free speech before. This is the truth actually. Now the thing is, it's our job, like you said, to curate that, like to see what's true or what's false, right? But you can say, oh well, social media is slanting it, right? They're keeping people in their echo. That's your kind of say. They can weaponize this information, right? They make their algorithm so you only see the same thing, correct? This is sound the same train of thought. Well, the algorithm is made that way because if I give you an idea you agree with and an idea you oppose with, you don't watch the idea you oppose with. The reason the algorithm is that way is people want to see the same thing. The good thing about social media is when someone wants to break away from that, they can search the exact opposite idea and see it. It's not social media's fault that we can't tell what's true and fake. Because it's not hard to tell if you just look both ways. These are the same people who thought religion was the same all this time and can't look outside of their own stuff. So to me, I'm hard against it and I'm for free speech. The rules need to get hashed out. CNN can't go on and say that shit. There's no way they can say that.
I think that you're touching on a really interesting point, and part of this is that you're right. At this point, we have never regulated the internet. Mm-hmm. And like, there have been moments where like the regulation was not the thing that we should have done. But I'm interested to see, like, do we need a cyber police now? Right? Like a whole force of people who are like out there making sure that truth is being shown.
Well, we need cyber laws first. Right. So there's no cyber laws. So that's the thing. Yeah. Because the way cyber is right now, there's no laws, and there's no cyber laws because there's no laws for truth right now that get enforced. So when we kindly can say, hey, lying is wrong out loud and there's a penalty for it, then you can police online. But for violence, you can police right now. You can't say that shit.
So, not necessarily a counter, but where we are in agreement.
Yeah.
And I see where...
yeah, to me, like, that answer is a very cynical idea of social media. You're forgetting everything it gave you.
Well, I am not forgetting everything it gave me. Mm-hmm.
To be fair, I am someone who's not on social media.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just even my argument, but I understand what it does.
So I am in agreement with everything you say. Mm-hmm. I understand everything, like all of those points you make. Like I agree with that. Mm-hmm. Where we differ, though, and where I believe is the next step, and I'm also a second point of agreement with you is that. Cyber laws. Mm-hmm. To me, it's the wild, wild west.
It is so crazy out there. It is so insane.
It's the wild, wild west, and we got to a point where it's like, hey, we need some fucking rules around here.
Yes, we're getting to that stage now.
And because I do agree with you that like Kaepernick and the like riots and protests and bad, negative, good, like police brutality, like all these things and all the positives of being able to point to
You
the
can
power
see the
and
Senate floor now.
Yeah.
Like you hear what some of these
we are connected to these moments now, and I think that the one good thing that Trump did is he woke up the American people from the slumber
Yes.
of the Obama era, because Obama's so fucking like
He
charming
he's
and
just handling it.
like, and so like
He's got
people,
it.
yeah, like it's autopilot, and so like he put the American people to sleep, and I think that Trump coming out and like being
But
Trump,
we've always been asleep. The government's always wanted us asleep. He didn't even do it.
yeah,
They've
and
just always
so,
wanted
but I think
it that
everybody's watching now, so like everything. And so people are way more involved politically than I've ever in my whole life. Yeah. Like why do I know who, like the first complete full names of some of these politicians?
No, it's crazy how much you know. It's crazy how much you know. You know
So,
their
like,
middle names.
Yeah.
I was like, you know.
What is it like? Jeff?
You know their sex aliases.
Yeah. So like, yeah, we know all these like crazy things about these people. Like, why am I that involved like this? Because everybody's involved more. So the point where we come to the as like a disagreement on like what the next how to act at this moment, and is that to me it's like, hey, there's no fucking rules. We can't just say like, you can't do that anymore. I'm taking the ball away.
Okay, so now again, and this is where I can push back on you, is once again, they were pushed into this position because the government has not made someone who's breaking the law pay for it. Okay,
I totally agree with that.
If it was once again not on them, if we would have done what we're supposed, because there are laws in the real world about what happens if you do that. The president has been in security protocols. They don't have a phone. Why does he have a phone? We break the rules, right? So like these rules are being broken on the other side, not by them. These guys were forced in a situation where they actually had to do something now. I
agree with that. Again, I am in no disagreement with anything that you're saying. It's just, to me right now, you can't
do that. I mean,
you can't
as an absolutist, no matter what, we'll have a line between us, because I'm not an absolutist.
But I am in agreement. So like, you're right. So like that for us, it's like that's just,
at some point there will be like. Because you can say, even if the reasoning is right, you would say you can't do that.
Yeah, it's
and
just
that's and to me that's not there's proof that there's laws have been broken. So just because he didn't get charged, I had to do something so that he doesn't keep breaking the law.
So let me follow up. How is that? When I said earlier, is like, I believe that we need better regulation. We need regulation. So like,
if there's rules,
I agree with you. Like,
then you would be
hey,
like,
these are the rules of this platform.
So you're like, hey, make these rules. So we know. Yeah.
And I agree with that. But I think that I agree that all these situations that people have been pushed to this.
Yes.
And I think that's wrong. I think that's bad. That's why I think that for every like social media. And media in general is like, there's a very big negative effect on people and the way they communicate and everything.
Right.
And so, I believe that we need better rules. We need better regulation, and we need regulation where it's not the people in power just doing enough and playing this game, but still really I'm not really giving you.
You're right, because like, there's still companies, and these are like Silicon Valley companies, and at the highest level, the left feels like it can go with banning and stuff because they have the same principles mostly as the people at top who are in charge. That is not a fair assessment, because leadership can change and then their minds would change so fast. And I know what you're talking about. On YouTube, a video will get demonetized if I say feminist, if I say... If there's so many
bring up Nazis, fascists,
anything. If I say the word, you're demonetized, and the thing is, I do believe you have to curate your own area, bro. It's so hard to be an absolutist. Like every platform, like Parler, there have been ones before it, and they always get shut down because they're at that 100% no curation, and a school shooting gets planned on it. Then every app gets shut down.
And I agree that is horrible.
And that's how they get shut down each time, not curating.
And I think that it's a failure. Like it's a failure of
the laws are right. You need the laws.
It's a failure of society on us to say, hey, we're taking you away because you've let this get out of control. I think it's society, government, us as a people failing to be able to point out that like we should have been able to like police this better. You should have been able to police this better to where like this kind of talk should be allowed, but if there's rules saying like this kind of talk is wrong, then you can take like action like, hey.
But isn't there those rules there?
How is that different from terms and conditions? That's exactly what I was about to say. That is exactly the...
But those rules are there in real life. Like, you can't threaten someone in real life. Like, well, if I just call the cops on you for doing that, if something happens.
The disconnect, though, is that there are terms and conditions which pull from real life law, but there is no actual legal...
recourse. You just get pulled off. You just get pulled off the platform. You're right. So that's fucked up, right? We got... You're right. So these guys have to get involved. You're right in the sense that they do have to get involved. I don't believe it's a human right because you can get kicked off and you can live the fuck without it, and I'm living proof of that, right? But I guess it's kind of.
Well, let me back up though. Also, weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that like in America, that is our amendment.
But you need it though. Yeah, it's got to. It's something. It is something more. It's not something as basic as a human right, but it is. It's like school. It's like you get this opportunity. You get this privilege to use. It's more of a privilege.
Agreed, but also I think that Roy's like getting to a place that I was just about to talk about is that the internet is global.
Yeah.
I don't think that we're in a place, especially with the internet, that we can have a country by country law system.
And so like,
but that shit won't work. We can't agree on
shit.
No, and that's exactly.
China don't even got the same.
That's
internet.
exactly what I was going to bring up. Like America's First Amendment is free speech, but not every country is exactly this law.
Dude, one day we'll cover like what some of these, because I'm always trying to defend man stuff. Like in Europe, like the laws are crazy different, like crazy different. It's shocking. So like I can't imagine what you're right, like what their rules would be. Every place would be different. Like, does that mean when I land my plane there and I post something, it could be illegal?
I mean, some countries don't even allow this app in their platforms.
That's true.
So, and that's a thing too. But how is that any different than you getting there and landing there and like not being able to abide by their laws?
It's not any different.
It's not.
It's not. But it's time that you're right. It is time we got to link it up. But it's also we got to make sure you don't blame social media.
Right.
It's not their fault.
And this, we're in agreement with that.
The general public, because as a whole, they're very stupid.
You gotta look where the real problem is. Tell us what you think. I'm super interested in this.
Leave a comment. Tell us what you think. Do you agree with
one
side or the other?
Don't it's actually we were on opposite ends. So which side? Who are you on? But tell us
why.
Yeah.